All right, here we go. We are live during spring break week, live from Orlando, Florida. It's First News Keeler in the morning. Here's a quickie for you in studio. In 2012, 35% of Americans had gotten rid of their landline and only had self-service in the house, no landline. That was in 2012. It has been 4 years since then. Anybody want to guess what the number is now? Has it gone down? Has it gone up? What do you think?
It has to have gone down.
No, the number went up. You mean the number of people
using... The
using...
number of opt-outs, if you will. I've got an education guy coming up, so we'll use opt-outs, opting out of the landline. So
I'm going to say 70. I'm going to say it doubled.
Yeah. You're going to go that high, yeah. It's 54%.
Really?
54% of Americans no longer have a landline at home, according to Influence Central. That's in today's USA
Well, a lot
Today.
of them hold on to them because they have to, or bundling purposes. They save money if they keep the landline. Correct.
I wonder what the difference is of people that have like their Verizon landline, like a real landline, versus like what you're talking about, the
Time
Warner, which is basically an internet-based phone.
In some cases,
if your power goes out, you lose your phone.
Right.
But with the old landline, the Verizon landline, you don't lose your phone.
This was a huge issue for me a couple of years ago because I wanted to maintain my landline, i.e. not my cable line, for that very reason, because of power outages.
Power goes out, you could still call 911. You could sit on the phone all night long if you wanted.
Right, exactly. And in some cases, the preponderance of the cable phone is so great that it's actually more expensive to have the traditional landline.
Yeah.
Because they're not maintaining those lines as much anymore.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the prices have come. And Verizon, of course, is really trying to lure their own customers with a landline into using their IP-based, their internet-based
the Wi-Fi
phone
Speaking
service. Anyway, I'm on, let me move along here. I have on the line right now Dr. Richard Hughes. He is the superintendent of schools at Central Valley Academy. That's the merged Ilion-Mohawk School District, and they're moving along. I don't know, is it their third or fourth year in the merger? Dr. Hughes on the line right now. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, Bill.
So I know this story broke on WKTV on Friday. It sounds like somebody tipped them off to, hey, teachers are going to be coming into the school in protest. They're going to be wearing black. And they're protesting the fact that 2 teachers were fired, and the word 2 very popular teachers. So what is going on?
Well, in our contract, by May 1st, we have to notify any probationary teachers what their possibility for next year is. So let me talk a little bit probably about tenure more than anything else. The whole tenure process is anywhere from a month to up to 3 years. Under 3012D, the latest APPR evaluation stuff, they've moved that to 4 years before you have to decide on that. And you can give an extra year of a probationary status to do so. So when you're deciding on possible tenure, or even a first-year teacher coming back for the second year, or a second-year teacher coming back for the third year, or principal for that matter, you got to look at their observations. You got to see how they relate to students. In their observations, are they doing all the critical things in those metrics that matter? And is there focus on the students and the focus on the learning, or are they focus on other interests that may be counter to what's going on? And is there student growth going on? Is the students getting better at what they're doing within the classroom? But you also look at soft skills that aren't really measurable using one of the rubrics. You look at, are they to work on time, just like you would in the real world? Right. Do they follow directives and instructions from their supervisors easily, or do you have to constantly go back to them to do those things? They completed the paperwork that's required, whether at the local level or, SED requires all of us, including the teachers, do a bunch of paperwork. So I can't get into particulars who and what, but those are the kind of things that we rely on the principals and directors to provide me and my assistants and the board with information. And if any of them have concerns, or if multiple principals have concerns, then we're making a decision. Because of tenure, we're making a decision that once a person is granted tenure, they're basically guaranteed that job for life. It's very, very difficult and very expensive to remove a teacher or a principal once they're tenured.
Once they have tenure, yeah.
Yep.
So in this case, without talking about these two teachers, now these were two teachers you just didn't renew, not as which would be a little different than firing, if you will.
Correct.
Okay. So now I would ask you, you have the merger. There's a lot of money being pumped in to Central Valley, and my question would be, what are you looking for in a teacher? What without talking about these two, what are you looking for these kids?
Well, you look at aptitude and attitude. Those are the two big things, and there's a lot of research on that. Business look at aptitude versus attitude. Attitude, if they have the right attitude, they're gung-ho, they're willing to learn, they're willing to grow, and that's not just new teachers. That's anybody. That's some of the best teachers out there. Actually, any of the best teachers I've ever seen or talked to, they don't think they've figured it out. They're constantly trying to get better at their craft. And that's what you want in a new teacher. You want somebody who's willing to learn, because there's no way, none of us know everything we need to know to do our job. We're supposed to get better every day. If we just focus on getting better every day, our kids would be set. So, that's one piece. The aptitude piece, do they understand curriculum? Do they understand how to structure a lesson? Can they take a curriculum based on standards and such and make that come to life for the kids, and then assess how they did instructing the kids or the students learning? That way they can always reteach things they need to know. But attitude goes a long way, because for most businesses, if somebody's got a great attitude and is willing to work hard and do all the little things and take care of those soft skill pieces, which I mentioned before, then you can move them to that rock star status where attitude and amplitude are combined together. Those are, for anybody, whether they're tenured, non-tenured, new. That's what we're looking for anybody.
All right. Why is it that why are some of these teachers? First of all, do you have teachers at Central Valley on board? Are there teachers that support what you and the board are doing, or is it the entire teaching staff that feels you're coming in making changes and they're all wearing black shirts? Well, what's the dynamic look like at Central Valley?
Well, to be honest with you, I didn't notice the black shirt thing until probably the end when somebody made a comment to me. Because when you look out the audience, as I thought back, I don't think it was even half. Those kind of pieces. Well, all these changes aren't for just to make change.
Right.
If I wanted to be popular, I'd just go with the flow. But even then, there are people demanding, our own staff, our community. I've had numerous people reach out over the weekend and previously that we're on the right path. It's just we gotta come together and focus on a vision that's going to get our district moved forward. Because when you look at the metrics, we're ranked 35th out of 36 schools in our area. Our reading levels, as of January, 52% of our kids are reading on grade level in K-8. 44% are able to do math on grade level K-8. That trickles down to when they get to high school, they're struggling in global studies. They're struggling in Common Core math. They're struggling in these exit exams they have to take. And if we don't change that dynamic and make sure kids can read and do math on grade level, we're never going to be able to move forward. And if they can't graduate with the skills they need, whether it's to go to college or career, 47% of our kids that go off to Herkimer College, our local college just over the highway up on the hill, 47% of them have to take a remedial math class. So they're taking a math class.
That brings up a point here. You're mentioning remedial math, which I'm hearing people throw the word segregation around. That you have adopted a policy of segregation in the school, and that doesn't sound like it's something that would be beneficial to students. Well,
people like to think the worst case, not all people, but generally, we have imaginations. That's why as a species we're so powerful and understand these things. It comes down to some people are just using this as a kind of a fear tactic. Either they don't understand it. So let's talk about how this segregation, which is not segregation, is really happening. So our principals came forward along with the director of special ed and said, this isn't working. They're looking at the math levels, looking at our reading levels. This year they started a walk to read model. And in a regular classroom, teachers are already doing ability grouping. I would call it more performance grouping, because it's not about where you think the kid should be, it's about how the child performs. So based on the performance, they put students in different reading groups. I bet back in your day, you were in the top reading group back in Mohawk.
I did well in reading, but I was in a speech class where I had to go to a special speech class, just for the record, in second grade, which I hope corrected the problem.
It seems like it has. I was in speech to fifth grade myself.
Yeah.
But, the performance base, we have our teachers are already using it. They're already grouping students by their performance or their ability. The idea of tracking that people are using as segregation, it's this fear that our current education system is solely based on grouping students based on what they should know by age. So if you're a 6-year-old, you should be in either kindergarten or first grade, and because of your age, this is what you should know. By the time you're 16, this is all the stuff you should know. Doesn't matter if you're ahead, behind, this is where you should be, and generally everybody teaches towards where they should be at that grade level. So we treat our kids like they're widgets in a factory. And when we treat them like widgets in a factory, we're not focused on each individual child. So we penalize the students who are behind because we're teaching to where they should be. And we also penalize the kids who are ahead of their classmates by either having them help their other classmates out or by sitting there and being patient while everybody else continues to work. Well, what if we shifted that model and focused on where every individual child was at that time? And that's what we're trying to do. We're trying to, based on what our principals and our director of special ed is recommending, give students the ability to move back and forth based on their performance, not based on state tests, based on teacher recommendations, teacher report cards. It's gotten to the point where I even have teachers coming forward, like our whole entire second grade at Behringer Road, sent an email, and it said, we would love it to have a pre-third grade class. Well, as you describe a pre-third grade class, they're basically telling me, we have a bunch of kids who came into second grade who were way behind, but now we got them to the second grade level. So let's have this group. We'll keep them back a year, but we'll put them in a special pre-third grade class, and then we'll get them up to par, and then they can move on to regular third grade. Well, they just asked for performance grouping without asking for performance or ability grouping. It's about getting the kids what they need. As the analogy one of the teachers said to me, children keep pace, can't keep pace, but let them get the help they need because, just like shoes, they come in half sizes.
So in this case, is there when you're moving forward with this with this strategy? Mm-hmm. I'm assuming there have been studies. I'm assuming that it's being used elsewhere successfully.
It is. We have honors classes, we have accelerated classes, and those are performance-based classes. We have AIS. So, the worst part about a student who's behind, they get pulled out for additional services out of their regular class to get additional help. So they're missing regular class time to catch up, but they can never catch up because this constant cycle of getting extra help when they should be in class working together, putting the resources in. There's all the research is out there. It's not about the old school of tracking or segregation, taking kids out of a classroom, dumping into another room, not giving them the resources, and just, those aren't the smart kids, so we won't worry about those. If you look at our mission statement or strategic plan, it says every single student, all students, reaching their full potential. So how about we make sure, if you look at our alumni survey, we have a number of alumni, even recent, previous ones, they loved their experience here for the most part, but when they went off to college, they said they weren't prepared. We have great people. We just got to get all in the same direction.
As a taxpayer in the Ilion Mohawk Merge District, I think I just want to see these kids do better. I want to see, they just came out with the performing schools, the performing high schools. New Hartford was on the list, and it went down to Whitesboro, and went down to Clinton. Fort Plain was there. Cooperstown was there. None of the schools in the valley were even ranked in the top 100 of New York State schools.
We can get there. We got great people. even though we disagree. We got great people. If you put 100 people in a room, you're probably going to get 50, 60 different ideas or 100 different ideas. We're trying to brainstorm these things. Our kids have the ability. A zip code does not define them. The problem is we're allowing a zip code and allowing a fear of change to define the expectations for our children, for all of our children. Kids in Mohawk and Alien are just as important as any other kid anywhere else, and they have just as much potential as any other child does, whether it's a New Hartford, whether it's a Utica, whether it's a Fort Plain, Cooperstown, like you mentioned, as anywhere else. And if we just focus on what's best for our students and not worry, I think some of the fear about this tracking or the segregation is because the parents or the teacher might feel bad because, the student now has a label. Well, if my child is having a hard time reading, that's much worse to their self-esteem than a label, because now once they feel that success, they can go on. And we just got to make sure every single one of our kids has the resources and has that support. That's why we're looking at things outside of school, like school-based health clinics, looking at bringing whatever we can to help the whole child, and we're focused on every single kid so we don't lose any of them. We have an 85% graduation rate. We can go higher, but out of those, we're really only 20% college career ready. So we've got to do more for our students. They deserve the best.
Dr. Richard Hughes, I appreciate you taking the time this morning. I'm sure there's going to be I think there's an upcoming public hearing or public meeting where parents can be involved, and let's see what happens. We appreciate you taking the time this morning, though.
Yeah, thank you, and bring back that sunshine and warm weather, will you?
Okay, yeah. I think we're looking at like upper 80s today, so we'll try to bring a piece of that back. So, all right, good deal. Rich, thanks so much for taking the time.
Thank you, Bill.
All right, quick break. We'll come back. Christina has news coming up. Little music in studio, and we're talking about some beer and a big event coming up on Saturday. Utica on Tap. One of the performers that's going to be playing will be in studio coming up. Hold tight. WIBX.